So yesterday we saw, or we had started seeing like different types of performance test, right? So based on that, and we had seen what is a load test. Okay, so let me start from that point and continue on the topics. So let me share my screen first. My screen is visible to all. Yeah, thank you, Parimala. Okay, so can someone say what is a load test? We saw yesterday, right? So what do we do in a load test? Come on, let's speak up. Then we will not feel tired. Okay, it will be very like you will feel very energetic. So come on. So what do we do in a load test?
We will be checking the performance of the application with a number of users.
So from yesterday's session, we saw that in a load test, what you do is nothing but you are just trying to run a test with a specific set of users, like let's say, for example, 100 users for a stipulated amount of time. Generally, it's 1 hour, and you measure the average response time that you are getting. Now, this graph is maybe for login. There might be some other graph for different transaction, right? So based on that, anyways, so ultimately, what you are doing in a load test is you are running the test with a standard user count, okay, 100 users or 200 users, and that you are not changing in this 1 hour time period. And so what will happen now when you're running the test, the response time might be like, let's say it is fluctuating between 1 second and 2 seconds. So your average will be somewhere around like 1 second and 2 seconds, and 1.5 seconds something for the whole test. And that is the response time that we take, the average, okay, of the whole test. So that should be lesser than the SLA or more than the SLA for your test to be successful. So in your test, your average response time that you get, okay, I'll explain you what is average response time in detail, but the overall response time that you observe during your whole load test, average, okay, on an average. So this response time should be, let's say, if it is greater than SLA response time, is my test a successful or a fail? I mean, like, as a performance perspective, is the application performing well or not?
No.
No, right? Because let's say average response time that I get is 6 seconds, and the SLA response time, which my customer needs, is 5 seconds. So surely, right, there's some problem in my application. So if it is less than, yes, then my performance test is like, I mean, the load test is successful. I don't need to go I mean, like further, or I don't need to run further tests. But if my average response time is greater than SLA, then there is some problem and we need to fix. So we first report whatever we saw. Developers will tweak whatever they can, and then again we run the load test. So this will happen again and again. So what will happen is we run the load test, we give the results, development team will make some fix, again load test. So this will be happening like a cycle, okay, till we achieve that SLA. Once the SLA is achieved, we are good, we stop, and the load test is approved. Okay, so that's how things happen. Now, yesterday we saw, right, we have different types of test. One is load test that we already saw. Now we have something called a spike test, we have something called a stress test, and we have something called an endurance test. Okay, so now coming to spike test. So what is a spike test? Okay, before I go or move on to spike test, let me show you. I'm just plotting this graph from some time, right? So let me explain you this graph, okay, what I am plotting, so that you will get an idea of what all these things are. So in this y-axis, I have the number of users, okay, and in the x-axis, I have the time basically. So the time is from when I started to when I'm stopping, the time, right? So let's say users are, let's say 10, 20, 30, then 40, 50. Okay, this is the number of users. So what happens in a load test? I start the test and I maintain it at some standard 40 users, let's say, and then I stop the test. Okay, and this will be like, let's say I started at 5 p.m. and I stop at, let's say, 6 p.m. So almost 1 hour I run the test. Okay, so this test is called a load test, where I am keeping the number of users same in my test. I am not changing at all. So when I don't change the number of users, will the load change? Will the load change?
No.
Exactly, right? The load will not change. That means load is also steady. I am maintaining a steady load. Okay, so that is a load test. That's why it's called a load test, because I am maintaining a steady load for the overall 1 hour. Okay, now what's a spike test? Okay, let me draw
Vishnu,
that
one
in.
question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
During this load test, you said that there won't be any change in the load in this.
Correct.
So just want
Yes.
to understand, I mean, if a different user is accessing different page, for example, I'm in a gateway where I'm
Correct.
trying to do a payment to the
Yeah.
Amazon, and you're still in
Yeah.
the main page. So
Correct.
won't there be any difference while during the load test at that time?
There will be. There will be. So, but here, this one, what this graph, what we have here, I'm saying it for a single transaction.
Okay.
So, if you have, like, say, 10 transactions, all will have a different graph.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like
Okay.
different load, but every transaction will have a standard load according to the SLA. Okay, yeah, let's come to that also. Now, who gave me this 40 user? Why am I keeping at 40 user?
Yeah, it's from the customer,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, right? Customer gave me the SLA, right? Like he said 40 users, they should be able to order in 5 seconds. So I
Oh,
have the SLA. So I have to run a test with this 40 user load and check whether the response time is coming, that average is coming under 5 seconds.
okay.
So that is a load test, right?
Okay. Okay.
Now I'm always saying average, 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 right? So let me explain you why average. Okay. So that same graph, I'll just plot time, and here I'm plotting response time. Okay, this time, not user. So how my graph will look, right? Like let's say my response time is 5 seconds. Okay, this one. That's my SLA. Okay. So when I run the test, my load test, it will be like something like this. It won't be a straight line. So this will be like, let's say, 6 seconds, and this will be like, let's say, 4 seconds. So what will be my response time? What I will report? I have to report only one time, right? Are you getting? So if I say login is taking 5 seconds or 5.5 seconds, what is
Mm.
that? So I take an average, right? So I take the median average, and that response time is called the average response time, right? So let's say what I do, I just like we used to do in math, right? Like I take all the values,
Mm.
okay, and then divide it by the number of values, right? So that way I
Yeah.
get the average. So that is the average response time, and that average response time should be lesser than the SLA. Then my load test is successful. I hope you are getting, all of
Okay.
you, right? Like
Yes. Yes.
what is average response time, right? Anyone has any doubt in that? Okay. Now, yeah. Now coming back to here. Okay. So now this load test graph looks like this. Okay. Now let's say I am running a spike test. Okay. So let's go to spike test. Now spike test is specially for testing the applications that are like the spike test objective is mainly to understand how your system behaves under sudden load. Okay, so let's say again I am keeping my SLA standard 100 users, let's say 5 seconds, and transaction is, let's say, login. Okay, for login transaction 100 users should be able to log in 5 seconds. Okay, that's my SLA always. Okay, let's assume that. So now let's say I want to run a spike test on the login transaction. So what I do, so how the spike test will look like, right? So again, number of users, time. So how much is my SLA? It's 100 users SLA. But there is a small change. When you run spike test, you will not run with the full load. You will run it with just, let's say, 50% of the load, 50 users. That is one thing. Okay, you will run it with 50% load. Spike test. Okay, now what is a spike test? So what I do, I first of all, so the number of users is 50. So this is 50, 20, let's say 70. Okay, so I first start the test. Okay, I start the test. Maybe 0 user, or sometime maybe 5 user. I will start the test. And let's say at 5 p.m. I start the test at let's say 4:50 p.m. And at 5 p.m. what I do is, using JMeter itself, I will take the number of users suddenly to 50. And I will hold it for, let's say, 30 seconds to 1 minute. And then I'll bring it down. So what will happen with this is various phenomena, right? Like various performance bottlenecks can be tested using this. Okay. Now, for example, the most common one which you can test by a spike test. But before that, can someone say when this scenario comes? Let's say in Amazon, in what occasions this come?
On
And the
Black
big
Friday,
sales.
Big Billion
Exactly,
Days.
right? Big billion days, flash sale. Now that Samsung Galaxy something is going to release, maybe pre-booking, right? Anything. So that sudden spike will come. And are you able to differentiate between load test and spike test? Is anyone confused, like what's a load test and spike test? Clear differentiation, right? Now let me explain you what are the different types of performance bottleneck that you identify. Okay, when you are running a spike test. Now see, when I say performance bottleneck and all, when we go to the last phases of our course, when we reach the result stage or the reporting stage and all, we'll be discussing it very extensively. Okay, but now since we are talking about the different types of test and all, let me point out few. Okay, but we will go in depth. Okay, what's a performance bottleneck? What are the different types of performance bottleneck, bandwidth issues, and all those. Okay, but just let me explain you now quickly which type of issues this spike test actually uncovers. Okay, let's say my system has auto scaling. Those who are new to auto scaling, we will see we have this horizontal pod auto scaling example. Okay, which we will see in the course. But till that, just to say what's an auto scaling, nothing. Let's say my application is now running on one CPU. Okay. Now, as the user load increases, what I have to increase to keep my application stable? I have to increase the resource, right? So what I do, I add one more CPU. Similarly, more users, more. So, and this one is called, when it happens automatically, it's called auto scaling. I'm increasing the number of resource automatically based on the number of users. And this happens mainly on cloud. There are two things, cloud and on-premise, that I'll explain, okay, when we come to that. But for now, on cloud, it mainly happens, this auto scaling, okay. Now, let's say, now currently 100 users are there, okay. When it becomes 200 users, it becomes 2 CPUs. But do you think there will be no lag between adding the CPUs? Do you think? Or will there be a time difference? Okay, for one CPU to become 2 CPU, it will take maybe 2-3 minutes. Or one CPU to 2 CPU will happen just in a second. What do you think is the realistic?
I think it will take.
Yes, it will take time, right? It will take time, around maybe a minute or two minimum, right? So now, but here what is happening? Suddenly my load increased. Like there is no time, right? Like for that even that the so basically let's say my CPU was count 1 here. So it is at this load, it has to be 5 CPU. But it will take 2 minutes to come to let's say 5 CPU. But already my load is high, right? So this one CPU that is there in place, it should crash because it's not able to take that much load now quickly. So overall your application will collapse. It will start throwing some errors. So to test that situation, we have the spike test. Are you getting all of you? That should not happen. Our auto scaling should be very quick, or our system should be in such a way that even spike also it can handle. Are you getting all of you? Why we need a spike test? Any doubts?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a spike test. So sudden increase in load, right? To understand how your system behaves when the load is increasing suddenly, we go with the spike test. And then third one is something called a stress test. Can someone guess
Vishnu,
what's a stress test? Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah,
Vishnu, one question
yeah.
actually. It
Hmm.
is related to spec testing.
Okay.
Actually, is there any calculation that need to be increased like this way, or with this percentage? Is there anything like that, or we have to take any random up and down, that is ramp up and ramp down period?
So ramp up and ramp down we don't keep in spike test, no? It's zero. You have
Okay,
to spike,
okay,
right? It's sudden.
yeah,
So only thing is the load. So it has to be 50% of your load test.
okay.
Okay, the load for the spike. Okay, not stress for spike.
The initial one is
Okay,
50%.
yes, correct. Okay. Now coming to stress test. Stress test is nothing but from the name itself, right? To find out how much maximum my application server can take, or the servers can take maximum. So my user said 100 users, 5 seconds for login. Okay. Now can it happen that my system can take 1,000 users? Can it happen?
You check
Maybe the
that.
capacity is there, right? So that might happen. We don't know. But yeah, response time might go to let's say 50 seconds. But my system is able to take 1,000 users. Can that happen? It can,
It
right?
will
Because there is CPU, there is RAM, maybe enough resource. It can go to 1,000 users, but only the response time might increase, right? Drastically. So to understand this only, we do stress test to find out this maximum value. So what happens in a stress test is, let's say again, number of users, time. So what I do is I run a test and I keep adding the number of users. And at one point of time, it will break. So what is this break is, generally when we say break means it will throw lot of error, 500 internal server error or 504 gateway timeout errors, whatever. There are different types of HTTP code, status code errors that we will see, okay, what they are in the upcoming sessions. But it will start throwing error when the error rate is above 10%. We say our system has broke. That's a standard. Okay. So till the error rate crosses 10 percentage, we will still keep adding users. Okay. So 10, 100, 500, 1,000. So users, you will keep adding. Okay. And at 5,000 users, your system broke. So this is what a stress test we do to understand how much maximum my application can take. But we will not worry about the response time. Response time will increase surely. Okay. We will not worry about that. But how much maximum load my system can take, that to find that only we run the stress test. Now can someone say why we need a stress test, like why I need to know the maximum number of users? Is it
we,
required?
we don't know the exact number of user in future coming, right? So might be we have tested with the 1,000 user, might be there will be 2,000 user will come. So that's why I
Exactly,
think we
right?
have to.
Yeah, yeah. Very good answer, right? So that is a futuristic thinking also, right? Because in later on, if let's say uh, some extra number of users come also, my application is able to serve them, right? That surety stress test gives us. So maybe the response time they will see little high and all those things will happen, but still my application will serve them properly, right? So that proof or that validation we do in the stress test. Okay. So now next comes the endurance. Now in endurance test, what happens, right? We run the test for a very long duration. Okay. So and the load will be generally uh, around we say 2x. Okay. So 2x means like it will be around 2040. So 2x is basically 2/5. Okay. So it can be, let's say, 200 by 5. Quickly, my math says Hank. Okay. So I can say 40. Yeah. Okay. So 40% load. So you run the endurance with the 40% load. So let's say 100 users is my load test, right? So how much should be my endurance test? If I
40.
keep 40%, 40 user for endurance test. And for spike test, how much? If you remember what I said, how much
50.
percentage? 50,
50.
right?
50%.
Yes, 50 users for spike test. And what about stress test? How much users?
It's
As long as
increasing.
go till.
Correct, correct. It should be always higher than the load test. Okay, it will go higher than load test. Only that we know. We don't know the correct value. Okay, it can go to any n number. Right. So endurance test I will run with 40 user. And this one I will run it for a very long duration, 12 hours to 24 hours. That's why endurance test is done at the end after you do all the test. When all the test is approved, then only you go with the endurance test. That will be actually a final showdown. Okay. So now what is the objective behind running a endurance test? So let me explain you quickly a phenomenon called memory leak. Very easily I will explain now, but later on when we go in depth, I will explain you what is heap and all. Okay. But now for your purpose, just a simple way I will explain. So I have RAM. Okay. So this is my RAM utilization. Okay. So like 10 percentage used, 20% used, 30% used. Okay. RAM, our system RAM. Okay. So server RAM, I will say, in which my application is running, server RAM. So I plot the graph. Generally, how the graph will look like is, will look like something like this. Okay. Something like this. We call it a sawtooth format. Now this going up and coming down is happening due to something called a garbage cleaning or garbage collection, we say. Okay. Just for your understanding, I'll say cleaning. Okay. Now what is garbage cleaning? See, what RAM does is whenever you run any application, there are objects that will get created and stored in the RAM. Okay. Whenever some program runs, so that objects, once the use is done, they should get cleared. But if the objects are not cleared, let's say this object 1. So when it reaches at the max, what happened? Garbage collection cleaning will start. This object 1 will get cleared because that program is no more running, right? So I don't need that object to remain in the RAM. So I will clear. And then object 2, let's say object 3, that it's not one object. There will be hundreds of thousands of millions of objects. Okay. So object 4. Okay. So this cleaning and creation should happen very evenly. Okay, without any issue. But what happens now? Sometimes when we clean, some small percentage you will leave behind. In some systems that will happen. Okay. So now what will happen with this object 2? Object 1 will be there little. Similarly. So what will happen? At one point of time, my RAM will crash because it is going beyond that limit that I have set. And this phenomena is called memory leak. And this will happen over a long duration, like not in 1 hour, 2 hours and all. Okay, minimum 12 to 24 hours, you can see. So this is the graph which is a normal graph. So if you have a memory leak, what will happen is the graph will look something like this. So the peak keeps shifting. That means you can say from the graph itself that there is a memory leak. Yeah, this concept might be little difficult to understand at this stage of time. So no need to worry. Okay, just understand that your RAM utilization, what has to be cleared frequently, it's not getting cleared, and it keeps building up, and RAM will run out at some point of time, and your application will crash when it runs for a long duration. To test that only, we run endurance test. Clear, all of you? Any doubts till now?
Sir, what we will be checking here means which graph means
The RAM, server RAM.
memory.
Yeah,
Okay.
memory. Yes, correct.
Hi Vishnu.
And you will see that in Grafana. Okay, now where you will see that is in Grafana. So in Grafana, okay, maybe I will show you little, might be little early. Okay, so that setup I have not done yet, but I will still show you a small image. Okay, maybe you can then correlate with that. Okay, so the graph will look something like this. Now these are like very minute graphs. Okay, but you will get this Grafana memory graphs. Okay. Okay. Yeah, something like this you can say. But ultimately, what will happen is it will cross a point, and because your RAM will crash. So this peak, right? These peaks will get shifting higher and higher. That means there is memory leak in the system. Okay, so and the graph will look something, and this way you can monitor in Grafana. Grafana will look like something like this, like these graphs you will see there. When we go to Grafana, it will be more clear, okay, to you. Okay, right. Anyways, yeah. Any questions? Anything else? Anyone?
Yeah, Vishnu. May I know
Yeah.
the difference between a spike and a stress test?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll explain once more. Okay. So in spike test, we are increasing the load. Let's say I start with 5 user, and this is 50 user, and this is 40 user, and let's say this is some 1,000 users. Okay, just for sake. Now spike test. Let's say I start with 5 user. At let's say some point of time, let's say 5 p.m. I will increase the load to 40 user and bring it down suddenly. Okay, this is like just 1 minute I will hold max, not more than that. This is spike test. Okay, now in stress test, what I do, I keep adding the number of users. So I will add the user, I will keep for 5 minutes, I will add, keep for 5 minutes, I will add, keep for 5 minutes, I will add, keep for 5 minutes. So like this I keep adding, and at one point of time my system will break. It will start throwing 10% above errors. Okay, that time my system, I can say my system broke, and this is stress test. Is it clear now? What's the difference between stress and spike?
Yeah, Vishnu. As earlier said, in spike testing, we don't provide like ramp up studies.
Correct. That's why there is no ramp up. See,
How could
it's a
we
straight line.
know like exactly this point users need to act?
Correct. So that is why we have something called we have to set up that synchronization, right, in JMeter. At that point of time, all the user will be released at that specific point of time, all together. Okay, that we do in JMeter. That setup that we will learn. Okay, how we synchronize. In LoadRunner we call rendezvous point. In JMeter we say synchronizing, right? So we will see that how we do that.
Yeah, sure, Vishnu.
Yeah. Okay, right. Now to
So,
give, yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
suppose in load test, we are doing it with 100 users. So for stress test, we will be starting from 100 or
No, no,
200.
no, no. You
Okay.
start from low only, low values. Because if you start from high, no, again that maybe you might be hitting that spike test issue, no, where you are suddenly starting with high user. No, you should start from again some lower amount, like you start from 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%. Then you reach the load test value. Then you go beyond that,
Okay.
like that. Okay.
Yeah. And also in a stress test, we will be getting sometimes 429 or 427 error
Hmm.
codes.
Okay.
So at that time, what we should do? We are not getting 500
Hmm.
errors, but
Correct. Yes.
uh,
Hmm.
so what we will do by
Yeah,
that
see,
time?
this 429 and 427 error codes, right? See, there are various error codes. Now, each error code has a significance. Now, 429 is too many requests. That means there is a throttling that has been set up in your server, rate limiting. Okay, so
Okay.
that is actually an expected one because you are the person who are setting the configuration, no? I mean, like the team. So if you're
Yes.
hitting beyond that, that is a rate limiting that they have applied. So either what you can say is they have to increase the rate limit because if you have to hit that high load, no. So
Hmm.
what they have to do is they have to increase the rate limit. So 429 will go.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Similarly,
Yeah.
427 also. Basically, it's not actually there's no 427. 407 is there for
There
proxy
might be.
authentication and all. Yeah.
Yeah.
But from 427, if you're seeing in the logs or responses, might be some custom. I don't know. Because 427.
Might
Yeah.
be, might be. I'm not
Yeah.
sure with the code, but apart from 500 error, I'm talking
Yeah. Yeah.
about. Yeah.
429 we have. It's a rate limit. 427 is not a standard HTTPS code. I don't. Maybe like I don't remember. Anyways,
Okay.
there is 427. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I suddenly remembered 420, but
No, actually,
427.
client
Yeah.
side errors are.
Yes, yes,
I
correct.
was
Yeah, yeah.
thinking like how to do means if we are getting during stress test. I was not sure.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
429, if you get, you have to speak with your DevOps or the development team or the platform team and increase the rate limit. See, it's
Okay.
generally why the rate limit is to avoid this DDoS attacks and all, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just you say that for your performance environment, you remove that limit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Any other doubts, anyone? You can raise your hands. Okay, I'll come one by one.
Yeah, I have a doubt on the spike test actually. So
Yeah, yeah.
what exactly we calculate on spike test? I mean, I know you said that after some
Mhm.
point we hold for 1 minute. So what is that you're trying to capture in that 1 minute?
Error should be below 1%. That is what we will look into. Okay. So
Okay.
error rate that you see in that summary report should be below 1%.
Okay.
Okay. But ultimately in the background, what we are looking is, see, if your error rate increases, that means your application crashed,
True.
right? Yeah. So that's so as a metric wise, what we look is error percentage. It should not go beyond 1%. 1% is generally acceptable in performance testing. But yeah, again, see, this is all based on your God is your customer, right? If he says like 0.1 percentage is what we will accept, right? Then you have to go with 0.1, not 1%. Okay. But yeah, general rule of thumb is 1% for spike test, 10% for stress test.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other doubts? Anyone? Okay. So now let me come back. So these are the different types of test, and based on what is the objective, you run the test. Now my question to all of you is, let's say I have an application. Do I need to run all these tests for all the applications? Or I should choose based on the application behavior?
Needs to be
Based
based
on the
on the
application
behavior
behavior.
and
Correct.
functionality.
Yes. And why should I avoid running? Anyways, it's a test, no? I can run it. Why should I choose? What's the reason behind
Actually,
choosing?
the main things to always choose is also to limit your variables so
Hmm.
that to not over over, like, it's easier to debug also if you start with less variables.
Correct. So I think someone had this over testing issue, right? So I don't remember who was that. It was if I remember, like uh, Gokula only, right? Gokula.
Yeah, over testing. No, no. I mean, just it's,
Maybe you go little ahead for your customer, right? Making them more happy.
always, right? Always.
Yeah.
Because at the end, we do what we can, it's up to us to
Correct.
provide a
Yes.
good
Yes.
quality product.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, so ultimately, see, you have to choose how much you can in the stipulated amount of time. That is very important, right? The scope. Because if you keep increasing the scope just for, see, there are extra hours of work, then surely the ROI is more. Okay, I mean, like for our organization. But we have to think in different way also. Sometimes our proposals will get rejected because we are quoting more. Okay, so we have to be in a very good sweet spot, right, where our proposal will also not get rejected because we are choosing the test properly and this much number of hours, and when we estimate the budget and all, that will affect. Because let's say you add one test like stress test, it's almost maybe if it's a very small application, it might take maybe a 2 day time. Okay, you keep 2 days or 16 hours, right, of a person's time. Generally, if you see 16 hours will be almost $500. Sorry, not yeah, maybe not 500, sorry, $5,000. Okay, sometimes. Okay, I'm maybe my like, let's say 30 to $35 if you keep an hour. Okay, somewhere it will be a good amount. So ultimately, what I'm saying is that much amount unnecessarily will increase in your proposal. Now, this I said for just 2 days, okay, but generally 2 days is very low. It will be like 5 days, 6 days, right, which we get for a test and all. So it comes to a good number, right, good amount. So we have to be very careful what we are estimating, right, because it will not affect you. You just need to run the test, right? Might not affect much, okay, but it will affect the proposal, the estimate that your manager is giving. Okay, so make sure we don't overestimate also, but at the same time, we should not underestimate because we are bringing loss to our organization, right? So we should have a proper justification, proper good points, right, to say, okay, why we are doing this test, why it's that extra hours, right? And we should be able to defend ourselves ultimately, right? So we have to be in a good spirit, and for that we need to understand which test for which application. Now, for Amazon, I can do spike test, but I will never do spike test on a, let's say, an admin application, okay, where I already know, okay, this many employees will come surely, and that will not set, like, anyways, there is no flash sale, or maybe sometime some rating is released or some performance appraisal is released, and people flood in to see their rating. That's a different story. But surely admin portals, generally spike test you will not do. Okay, so, and there is another reason also, not only because uh, sudden increase is not there, but there's one more reason, that admin portals, if something goes wrong also, it's our team only. It's not affecting our brand value, or we are not losing any customer. It's our employees only, right? But if it's a customer facing application like Amazon and all, right, we cannot live with the break, or like the problems, right? We have to be very sure that the system will not break, right? So those are the reason why customer facing applications have more significance in performance testing than admin applications. Okay, right. So based on what your application, you have to choose the test. Yes, Rayasi, please go ahead.
If we are doing performance test, we have to do on a shift. We are asked to
Mhm.
do a shift left performance
Correct.
test.
Yes. Yes.
Then what are the tests we should do? Means
That's a good topic actually. Um, a little early for others, but okay, let me explain you quickly. So shift left, it's for everyone. Okay. So see, there are various environments, okay, in which we test. Okay, maybe I'll take that topic now. before I jump into CDN and all, and even JMeter. See, when you're working in your organization, there will be various environments. So environments are nothing but in which the each team will be working. Okay, so there is dev environment, there will be a UT or a UAT environment, or a testing environment. Not sorry, not UAT. Okay, my bad. It's IT. Okay, IT environment or testing environment. Then we will have perf environment. Then sometimes nowadays pre-prod staging environments are there. Okay, and then production is there. So production environment is where my system is live. Okay, the real application is lying, production environment. And each of these environments will have their own resources. 10 CPUs, 5 CPUs, 15 CPUs, 5 CPUs, 5 CPUs, 15 CPUs, right? Like this. So generally, the infrastructure will be same in perf and production. And if at all it will be different, it will be 50% of production. Infrastructure means the CPU, RAM, and all. But this testing environment, like the IT environment, will not have same 15 CPUs. It might have just 2 CPUs, because here they are not testing load. They are testing functional things, right? Similarly, dev will have just maybe 1 CPU, not 15 CPUs like production, because they're just developing. They're not putting a lot of load and all, right? So this way you have various environments. Now what is shift left, right? So I'm going from left to right, right? This is left to right. So my testing is after things come to, I mean, like after everything is done, when it comes to performance, the performance test will start. Okay. After dev, then functional testing is completed, then performance testing. So what is shift left is, why should I wait till the code reaches perf? I will start little early. So I will go towards left. That is shift left. So I start my testing from dev environment, or sometime maybe IT also. So what do I test? Now CPU count is less, right? So I cannot test with the full load, the performance load, right? So I will test with lesser, like let's say performance test I do with 200 users. Dev environment, I will run the test with, let's say 5 users, or very low load. And here also I will not run like everything like a web page. I will run in bits and pieces, like APIs, one API, because everything is not ready, no, not integrated. So I cannot test all together. So in dev, I will test only so ultimately the concept of shift left is to identify a code issue initially itself, not the infrastructure issue. So that is shift left. And generally it comes in the agile. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. So in that, the main objective is to find the code issues, okay, not the CPU or RAM or that infrastructure level issues. No, but in the code, if we can catch something early, right? That's the main motive. Yeah. Any other doubts, anyone? Okay. Now an open question to all. Out of all these topics that I spoke, which one you didn't? I mean, like you feel okay, little confused. Just call out. Something that went little off road. Anything like that, which you want me to recap quickly?
Nothing.
Okay, that's great to hear. Okay, because if I was able to convey everything properly, either that's someone is keeping quiet, or else it was really good that all of you understood it. Okay, anyways, so Ahmed, please go ahead. You had some doubt?
No, it's not like all I think it's all good going. But
Okay, okay,
yeah, just one quick thing.
yeah,
You have considered 40% of the users, right, for
correct,
endurance. So on what
yeah,
basis we have that 40%, or like any kind of standards we have?
yeah. It's a general rule of thumb we follow. You will
Okay.
never run endurance test with the same load. Okay, I mean, like what you run with
Endurance
the
we
load
can,
test. Yeah,
Mr. Vishnu. I
yeah,
actually
Babu.
endurance test we will go with an 80% of load, right?
No, 40% is the good one, because see, if you go with 80% also, 40% also, memory leak will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's
Okay.
not about the load. Some average, and yeah, one more thing. Okay, why this 40%? That's a very good question. See, now this 40% is more sort of like a median, right? When you compare a system, will your system be always at 80% load? No, your system
No.
will be
No.
on an average somewhere around 40 or 30% load, right? Because your user count will not be always high. There is
Mhm.
night time, there is off times and all, right, where your application is not that loaded. So 40% is a good number.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. But again, see, now these are, as I said, based on your customers. You can make exceptions if they say maybe someone is there, some performance tester in their team. Okay, uh, maybe to he might say, okay, run it for 60%. It's okay. That in that case, but generally, if no one says you anything, you use 40%. Okay, yeah. Okay, right. So yeah, DG, you had some doubt. I can see you here.
Yeah, just one question. Like, is this
Mhm.
all tests are conducted on the same environment or different environment, like stress,
Different. Oh,
load,
okay,
and all?
you are talking about the performance type tests,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
All
performance
stress.
one.
Yes, that will be all in perf environment only.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, Harish, please go ahead.
Yes, Vishnu, I have a small concern regarding previously your expense shift left, right?
Yeah.
So the at starting, per suppose if any feature, if anything would be developing to only one environment only at a time, there is no any
Correct.
multiple environment we can use, right?
Mm-hmm.
For suppose, if any feature, first of all, we need to develop in one environment. Once the deployment is done, we can do the testing. So once
Mm-hmm.
the particular environment is complete, then only we can move the one stage to, sorry, one environment to another environment. At a
Correct.
time, how we can do the testing for performance for
Mm-hmm.
all the environment
So
parallel.
basically, you run the test in the dev environment itself.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you run the test in the dev environment itself. Okay. And when
Mm.
you run the test, it is just anyways 5 user, 4 users. So it's not a heavy
Uh-huh.
load.
Mm.
Okay, you will not run it with heavy load, but with that small number of user, you will try to identify if any. Uh, so ultimately, it's like you can consider it as a filter to identify issue very quickly, rather than identifying it when it comes to perf, to avoid all that full cycle again. Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah. So and what all you test, you can test anything. Like for example, you can test a query, right? Whether
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
DB, anything you can test. Which is,
Mm.
if you feel okay, this query is not performing well, you can
Mm.
try to fix that in the dev itself before it comes to
Okay.
perf, right? Yeah. So
Mm.
such things you can do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Shreyasi. So today is Shreyasi's day, I think. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Sir, when we are doing the when we are not getting the number of users from the business,
Mhm.
then how
Yeah.
we will consider that these many users should we take for the load test, and these many for means for the load test, how
Mhm.
we will
Mhm.
choose the number of users?
Correct. Okay. So you are saying a situation where your customer is not that aware about performance and all. He says you already signed or you already defined, right? In that cases, your experience will come into picture. You have to either take help from some experienced guys who have already worked on such systems or applications, and you need to find out what was the general load they observe, okay, or what load they have run the tests and all that, or from your experience you will have to come up, or if they have some already running application, you can analyze their production data to find out how many users they are seeing, okay, on a monthly basis or weekly basis. Based on that user count, you can come up with a user. So these are
Mm,
the only two ways you can do
okay.
in that case.
And
Yeah.
if they give the transactions, the number of
Mhm.
transactions, by that also we can find it out, or
Yeah. So that's a good thing. If there's a number of transactions, then like automatically you have the throughput. So you don't need user count at all.
okay.
Actually, from user count, you come to throughput. So if you get throughput directly, there's no user required. Actually, in performance, you need throughput, not users. That we
Then
will see
what
later.
should we
Okay.
give in the
Yeah.
input? Okay,
Ah,
we will see
input
later.
we give user only, but what we monitor is throughput. not users.
I'm
Okay.
little bit confused, but
Yeah, we will see that. We will see that
yeah,
when we go
yeah,
to
later
throughput.
we will.
Yeah, it will
Yeah,
be clear. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. But why I am saying user now, why I said everywhere user is so that all of you can correlate easily now. Okay. But actually it is throughput that we will see. Okay, soon. Yeah, Alok, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Vishnu. I have one question. Like when you say like we have to create a script on the dev environment,
Mhm.
do we need to patch this script when we have the actual performance environment, or is that fine to
Yes,
have
yes,
this?
yeah, yeah. So it will be totally different because in performance environment you will have an end-to-end scenario starting from login to logout, maybe. Okay, but in dev it will be like single login will be there, logout will be there, right? So it will be a totally different script for both.
As such, we don't have to do any end-to-end testing in the dev environment, right? It is just
No,
a
no,
sort
correct.
of
Yes,
one single flow. Okay.
exactly, because there is no integration that has happened. No, you cannot run like that.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Sure. Yeah, so that was really good. Okay, I got so many questions, and really, when this happens, no, even I get that energy. Okay, because I don't get bored. So really good, and especially thank you to Shreyasi and others. Okay, who asked the doubts. Please do ask. Okay, because that way the whole session will become energetic, and ultimately, see, that's what will differentiate from some standard YouTube tutorial and what we are doing now, right? We are sitting in a group, we can discuss, we can share our thoughts, share our knowledge, and it's like a classroom, real live classroom, right? So it will be more interesting that way, and all of you will feel you like it's more sort of like a 28 brain working together, right? So it's like a lot of good outcomes should come out of it, right? So please ask questions. Okay. Okay, right. So now coming to, actually, I wanted to start just show you the JMeter, some protocols and all, but maybe it's almost time now. Let me see what's the time. Okay, we have 5 minutes. Uh, okay, so basically now we have to look into some topics like the various types of architecture, like one tier, two tier, three tier, and multi-tier architectures and cloud and all. So we'll see architectures, then cloud versus on-premise, what's the difference, some topics like that, and some like we will see what is a CDN, what's a middleware, then what's a load balancer, and we will see what is the difference between caching, non-caching, cookies, and we will see like why they are very important. This cache, especially the caching and cookies, in when you are running a performance test and all, right? Why we should be really careful about, and what's a distributed system, what are microservices and all those stuff. Okay, we will see that. So these things we will, some fundamentals, okay, of performance testing. We will cover all this because these play a vital role, okay, on your understanding of how you run a test. Okay, before we jump very deep dive into JMeter, we will see all these topics in a high level way, because you need to know if you're a performance tester. If someone asks you what's a CDN, you need to know. Okay, what's a middleware? Okay, what's a load balancer? Does your system have a load balancer? What's an app server, web server, or a DB server, right? All these things, some terminologies which you should know, okay, and which will help you in your interviews also. And then we will jump into JMeter, and what we will do is we will try to see a basic recording in JMeter, and we'll run a test. So what we'll learn, what's a recording, how to install JMeter, how to set it up, and from basics. Okay, we'll see everything starting from basics, and then we will record what's recording, how we record, what's the setup required for recording. Then we will run some basic test again to see whether the recording was successful. Then slowly we will move on to some end-to-end recording. Then enhancing the script using assertions, correlations, parameterization. We'll learn think time, little slow. Yeah, and so many things will come, okay, as we progress. Right. So, anyways, I'm not going in depth now because it's almost time. I can take some questions if anyone has. Otherwise, we can stop for today. We'll
Yeah.
continue tomorrow with this.
Vishnu?
Yeah. Yeah, please go
No,
ahead.
Digambar, yeah.
Yeah, Digambar.
So just wanted to ask you that it was related to just wait. I have noted
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
That recording, you are talking about the recording, right? It is
Correct.
recommended. Is there any recommendation like the recording controller only we have to use, or any external extension that is BlazeMeter kind
Mhm.
of stuffs we can use? Is there any
Yes,
recommendation?
correct. That's a good question. So, see, there are 3-4 ways in which you can record in JMeter. Okay, when you are doing a mobile testing, it's always preferable to record using Fiddler, okay, or some tools like that. When you are doing a normal web service testing or normal testing, there are different ways. So, BlazeMeter plugin is one plugin which people use. Okay, but the problem with that plugin is some organizations will not allow you to install that in your system. Okay, it's an extension. Okay, you have to install it. Second problem is whatever your script you are generating or whatever data you are generating actually gets stored in the BlazeMeter cloud. So it's little
Yeah,
unsafe,
security.
right? So if some API keys or something you are passing, right? Little, I mean, like I'm not saying they will use your data, but your organization will not like it, right? You're sharing it into their cloud. So such things will come. So that time your JMeter recorder, right, or your recording controller is the most apt solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Recently, actually, the BlazeMeter is not converting directly to JMX file, something that it's
Mhm.
converted to Python script and then, right? Is that true?
No, nothing like that. So you have to just we will see that. Okay, we
Okay.
will see that maybe tomorrow, next session. See, this is the plugin that we have here, right?
Y-
We will see that. But yeah, you will get JMX file directly. Okay, not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Parimala, please go ahead.
Yeah, Vishnu, for me, like in the database, it also affects
Mhm.
the performance testing,
Correct.
like
Yes.
query and all.
Mhm. Yes, yeah. Why not? See, when you hit a okay, when you are running a select query, okay. Basically, when you're clicking a button, you are getting the list of orders that you have made. Okay. When you're in your Amazon, when you're clicking order details, you're getting all the orders that you have made. Now, how is it getting? So, in the background, it is actually selecting it from the database, and PHP or whatever code they are using, that will print it in front of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if more people search for these order details, more times that order query will run, right?
Yeah.
And automatically the DB will get loaded. So surely,
Mm.
yes, query also affects. So
I
your
mean,
query
it
latency,
should
query
be
time,
optimized, right? Like, I
exactly,
mean,
correct.
okay.
Mm,
Oh,
yes.
thank you.
But
Yeah.
load will affect it. Yes, surely.
Mm-hmm.
Because even DB has a CPU, no? Has a resource
Mm.
utilization, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the same Vishnu Digambar here again. So
Yeah.
the data integrity, so higher data, it is going into the DB. That kind of test need to be conducted. So means
Yeah, we
what
can do this
exactly?
volume testing. Yeah. There's something called a volume testing. That time, especially volume testings will happen when you have some ETL process and all, right? When you're testing such things. Not for DB alone, but ETL and all. So that time, but yeah, that is not a very common test. And generally, what you do is you push very heavy volume data into the system, and you understand how it's performing in that situation. It's a
Okay,
volume test.
using
Yeah.
JMeter or apart from
We can
JMeter
do,
like
yeah, we
ETL
can
tool.
do using JMeter. Yes, we can run. Or
Okay.
you can write a simple script also just to push the data, no?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Shreyasi, over to you. Maybe I will close with your question. Yeah,
um, it may be a stupid question.
that's totally all right. I like stupid questions.
um,
It's a chance to
we
laugh for everyone. Okay.
We have seen like we can convert the HAR file to JMX file. So is it
Yeah.
a way to get a JMX file to HAR file? Any way is there?
You can. There are ways. Okay, not that there is no way. You can capture it in some tool like Fiddler. Okay, when you are hitting request through JMeter, just capture it into Fiddler, and that you can export it as, I guess, HAR, right? So something like that you can do. Vice
No,
versa.
I want to convert. Okay.
Yeah.
I have suppose
You
I
want to
have
convert JMX to HAR, right? No.
yeah.
Yeah. So you need to
I
run the
have
test
prepared this.
first.
I have
Yeah.
prepared a script in JMeter,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I have saved it in .jmx format, and
Mm-hmm.
now I want to convert it into HAR. So
But
I need
but why you need HAR? Because your requirement itself is you need to give an input HAR file.
no, actually I have to use it in another tool.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
was thinking, okay, I am comfortable in JMeter. So I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking, okay, I will do this in JMeter and then put it in that tool like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You can see. You have to capture in Fiddler. Just connect the proxy of JMeter and Fiddler. You run the
Okay,
test in JMeter.
okay,
It will get captured in Fiddler. From Fiddler, you export it to HAR. Okay.
okay.
So that way
Yeah,
you can do this.
yeah. Okay,
Or or
thank you.
or ChatGPT can do that as well.
Yeah. Give
Okay.
your JMX. Maybe. Right. No, because
Thank
vice versa is happening. What exactly Ravindra said, right? It was Ravindra, right? Who said? Or uh,
No,
because
this is Kaushik.
exactly, Kaushik. Okay, yeah. What exactly Kaushik said, right? Actually, ChatGPT is doing. So, but it's a different thing. What it's doing, if you feed HAR file, it is giving you the JMX, the JMeter script.
Okay.
Okay, so such things are happening. Okay, but it's not that efficient. There are a lot of problems like correlation, parameterization, and all, because there are a lot of manual things here, right? Which your AI cannot understand, right?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of manual inputs from your client, customer, and all. So that you need to include. So there are a lot of things, and people will feel that better than AI, we only do it. It's better, it's easy and fast. Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you, Ravindra. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi Vishnu. So
Hi.
first of all, I'm not sure if this was addressed before, but still, I'm very new to this
Yeah.
performance testing thing.
Sure. No
So
issues. Yeah, please go ahead.
we generally do automation. For example,
Mm-hmm.
always UI and APIs automation. In my case, it's robot framework in Python. So
Okay.
in while doing performance testing, are we going to leverage those, all the repository scripts, test scripts, meaning we
No.
would
Actually,
already
we will
provide
not.
them.
We will not have any connection with the functional testers. We won't be
Okay.
using anything from them. Ours will be totally different. Only thing
But
functional guys will help us is to understand the functionality, right? Before we run the test and all.
correct. So
Yeah.
suppose if we have to do a whole
Yes. Yeah.
transaction,
Okay. Yeah. One thing is that
uh,
if your question is whether we'll be using some swaggers and all, yes, that way
no,
Postman.
even the script, for example, you log in, do
Mhm.
several actions, then log out. The whole flow
No, we will
would
not.
have
We will
been
not. No,
will
that
not.
is not
Okay.
in our. Yeah. We will not. Yes. Because it's totally different what they do and we do.
Okay. But how would you make it like with recording itself? Can we achieve the typical
Yes, yeah. There
transactions?
again, actually, automation testing, if you know, right, performance will be very easy for you. There's not much to. I mean, like
Okay.
you will feel like it's. I mean, like your 80% work is less because there is no scripting at all here, right? So you will feel like it's all drag and drop.
Okay. Okay.
But here,
Yeah.
more sort of your knowledge in the experience will matter, okay? Because it's not in the scripting that your main challenge will come, but your experience, how you are building a realistic script, right? That proper script. What are some tricks and techniques you need to use? Obviously, we'll learn this in our course, but what I was trying to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
is those are the things you need to know mainly. Okay.
Fine. Fine.
Yeah.
I'll get
Sure.
it more going forward. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sure. Yes, yeah. Thank you, Ravinder. Yeah, and Shreyasi, it was a good question. Okay, it was not a stupid question. Okay, so please make sure you ask questions. It was a good one.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So it was a very good session today. We had a very good discussion on various topics, and I hope you also got the value. I hope, like, I'm holding you on a Friday evening. So, but really, thank you all for for joining the session, and wishing you all a very good weekend ahead. Take care. Take care of your health, and we'll meet on Monday. Thank you all. Have a good day. Good
Thank you.
weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.